Masechta bava basra, daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph. We're starting from Chav Vav Amud Beis, 10 lines from the bottom. Oma Ula. Ula hat gesagt, Ilan, ha-samuch le-meitzar, v'soy shesh esei ama, gazlanu. A person who has a tree, which is by the border of his friend's field, within 16 amas, then the din is that he has a din like a gazlan. I'm going to check it out soon. No, I'm going to look. I'll look soon, okay. So a tree, Chavav Amud Beis, 10 lines from the bottom. So Ula said that a tree that's right by the boundary, if it's within 16 amas, it gets its unique, it gets its chayis from the neighboring field. So then it has a din like, like a thibi, the unique is coming through Geneva. And therefore, one does not have to bring from those payers, from a tree that's within 16 amas of his friend's field. He cannot.
It is only 15 amas.
Let's say 15 amas, but it's within his chavis field is in the 15. It's in the 16 amas, so he's getting mamish from the chavis field, the yanika. So then he doesn't have to bring bikurim. And we know by bikurim in the pasha it says asher tabi me'artzecha. Das heißt nicht me'artzecha. It's somebody else's field. In fact, from where did Ula learn this shear of 16 amas? From this that we learned b'negei to Charisha on Erev Shvius. There's a din on Erev Shvius you're not allowed to already plow when it comes to trees from Chag HaShavuos, and if you're dealing with Tvor already from Chag HaPesach, you're already not allowed to. But there's an exception to the rule. What's the exception? If that you're allowed to even plow mamish out of shviyas if there's esenetiyos hampoizores b'soich beisa. If there's 10 saplings within 10 plants, small trees, let's say, within 50 saw, which is 2,500 feet. Of course, 50 by 50. Where do we know saw is 50 by 50? Because 5,000 square feet was Beis Hasayim by the Mikdash, Beis HaMikdash. So how that's 2 saw. Half of what was by the Beis HaMikdash 2 saw is 2,500. So it's 50 by 50. 50 by 50, 50 times 50 is 2,500. Now you have esnetiyas, which are 10 saplings within the 2,500 feet. We said it's halach l'meish mesinai, that you're allowed to plant, even you're allowed to plow, even mamish till out of Rosh Hashanah of the Shvius Dikayeh. He says, Chorshin, it's called Beisa B'Shvilan and Rosh Hashanah. You could plow till this whole Beisa, till mamish out of Rosh Hashanah. So now, Kama Havalahu, how much is it for each tree? So first of all, let's see how many amas is one saw. So if a saw is 50 by 50. 50 times 50 is 2,500. So that today, Alfin, Lachamesh Meya Gamidit. So you have 2,500 feet. Now, Lechol Chad, Lechad, for every sapling, for every tree, Kama Matale, how much did you have to give away? So you do 10, there are 10 trees, 10 divided by 2,500, comes out to 250. Oh, so Masim Chamshin. So you have 250 square feet for each tree. Says the Gemara, that's halay havdi ula. That's not, the ula says much more than 250 feet for each tree. Because ula said, how many feet do you need from the tree? 16. On each side, away from your Chavis field. 16 is 32. You need from these two sides also, it's 32. 32 times 32 is 1024. So it's not 250. So how could you say it's just 250 square feet? If according to Ula, you need 16, you need 32 by 32 for each tree. That's 1024. Zok the Gemara, but element it's not. Only we learn out from this that we learned in the Mishnah. If you have 3 trees that belong to, even though it belong to 3 different people, we combine all 3 trees together. And we're allowed to plow this Beisa till Shvuis out of Shvuis.
How much is the Beisa?
A Beisa is 50 by 50, it's 2,500. Still that. But it's only 3 trees now. 3 trees. We're not talking about plowing like halach l'meish misinai with 10 saplings till mamish erev Rosh Hashanah of Shvius. Rather, we're going to the regular halacha that it's considered as one. It's considered as a snei ilan that you're allowed to plow till the Shvius before Shvius.
What do you call it? Kebach Yashin. Kebach Yashin is. What do you call it? Kebach Yashin.
Coming is from the altar, but this has nothing to do with it. Here we're talking about plowing for Shvius. Shvius, you're already not allowed to plow already from Shvuis via Snei Ilan. And what's called a Snei Ilan, he says? He says what's called a Snei Ilan? A Snei Ilan is even just 3 trees, even if it's owned by 3 different people. You already have to stop plowing from Shvuis before the Shvius Dikayir. So you want to come let's make a cheshbon here. How many amis are there in a Beisah? 2,500 square feet. Now l'chol chad kama matilei. Now you have 3 trees to divide by the 2,500. So it comes out tamne meya utlasnu utlasnu tilsa. It comes out to 833. Says the katin the fish lady ula. Ula is much more. Ula said for each tree you need 1024, 32 by 32. So 32 times 32 is 1024. And here it comes out by 3 trees that you give for each tree, 833. Ula comes out to be much more. Says you want to lay duck. Ula didn't make such a big difference. 1024 is a bislamar. In fact, you want to even that.
More than 833?
Yeah, it's a little bit more than 833. It's 250, whatever. It's 250 something. Okay, yeah. But he says a little bit more. So he says, it does make sense. When do we say you're not careful, you're not mamish medaik, l'chumra? If you're going l'chumra, and he wants to say, how do you call it? Ula wants to say that you don't have to take bikurim until you have 1024, that's a kula. L'chumra, I understand. By 10, we say if his number was smaller, and he said, okay, he's smaller, he's being machmer. But you want to be makel? I mean, I'll tell you, already in bikurim from 833 square feet, and all is yikumin, and he said, no, you don't need 833. You don't have to bring till 1024. So he's being makel? How could you be makel on what has to be brought up to Yerushalayim? So l'chumra, it says, I mean, loidak l'chumra, l'kula loidak mi amrina, l'kula loidak to say, to be lenient and not to be careful, and you don't have to be, couldn't even more than 833 square feet. Do we then say we need, how could you be makel on something that you already became a chayiv on bikurim? And you're saying, no, you don't have to be until it's 1024. So Gemara, mi sabes b'ribur kamrina, b'igul kamrina. Says Gemara, when you're counting 32 by 32, you're talking about a circle. So when you look at a circle, look at a circle in a square. So how much do you have to take off from the square? If it's a circle in a square, quarter. 1, 2, 3, 4. So take off a quarter from 1024. So if you take off a quarter from is 256. So 256 from 1024 would come out to be, here he says it. How much is a quarter yisal al eagle, more than the eagle? Reviya, a quarter. How much is a square more than the eagle, than the circle in the square? It's a quarter more. So if you add a quarter more, it would be 256. You do, huh?
4 quarters.
So that means a quarter. 4 sides, you mean?
4 sides.
4 sides, it's a quarter of the cheshbon. So if you do a cheshbon of what's a quarter of 1024, 256. Pashale, if you deduct the 256 from the 1024, Pashale is shva meya v'shitnus manya. If you deduct 256, the quarter, because we're only dealing with the circle, and the extra quarter is 256 ames, from the 1024, you're going to remain with 768.
So that is good.
Huh? So 768. So 768 is less than 833.
Right.
Okay. So I said, Yomara Akati Pashale Palgadi Amsa. In order to get to 833, you need to add a half am on each side in order to get to the number 833. Till now we did 32, right? So he says, because you're doing 16 and 16. He says add 16 and a half on each side. So 6 and a half on each side of the tree would add up to 33. And then this way 33, you do 33 times 33, then you would come almost to 833. You come to 817. It's really, Taisa says you have to add a little bit more. It's 2/3. It's not 60, a half amma. It's 2/3 of an amma on each side. To add, to get to the number 833. But Bepel Mamish, he says, we made a cheshbon of 3 trees in 2,500 amma. If you give each tree the ammas within the 2,500 amma, you'll have 833. Ula said, you need 1024 because a saw is 50 by 50, it's 2,500. And you have 10, and then you have 3 trees in 2,500. You divide it, that each tree is 833. But so we said this, that Ula said you need 32 by 32 for each tree. It's 1024. He says he wasn't talking about a meruba. He was talking about a circle in the meruba. So you have to deduct a quarter. If you deduct a quarter, it comes out to 768. So you still have a gap between 760
Which number?
from the 1024. Do 1024 times 0.025 will be 256. 256 minus 1024 will be 768. Okay? So now 768 still doesn't add up to 833. So he says because you have to add a half amma on each side to make, so the whole chilik is a half amma on each side. So it's so little. Hi no delay doc. This is what he meant. We're not so careful. If you want to get up to 833, you would have to add a half amma on each side. That's veinik. Lechumna lay doc. And lechumna, he's being machmer now. Yes, there's a lechumna. Because according to Ula deducted from the square, the circle. He's doing only the cheshbon, the circle in the square. So if you deduct the quarter, it's only 768. And if you have 3 trees in a saw by saw, it's 833. So who's being more machmeh? Who is being mechayiv even at an earlier stage to bring bikurim? Ula. Ula says even when you hit 768, you already have to give bikurim. But according to the case that we had in the Mishnah, it was 833. Okay, so it's lechuma, and it's not so much of a difference. It's only a half amma on each side. So therefore, like that. Huh? Ula is machmeh, yeah. Zog Yimara Toshma, come in here, and I'll ask you a kasha on the Hira of Ula. It says, Hakoine Iloyen. Somebody who buys a tree with the land, maybe he has to bring bikurim from the payers of that tree. From the tree that he bought with the karka. And he reads the pasha. My love kol. When it says he bought a ilam with karka, we're assuming that he bought it even a karka that's even a kol shul, even that's very little. That's not 16 by 16.
Belongs to the tree.
So the chayre belongs to the chaba. It's not his. The chayes he's not getting from that tree. The chayes of that tree is from the friend's land. So how can he say in the pasha bikurim asher tobi me'artzecha? So the Gemara loy. When he bought land, he didn't buy land a kol shul. He bought 16 amas for needs all around for the tree, so it's not eating up. It's not getting its yanika, its chayes from the friend's field. So it's totally his. So therefore, you can say the pasha bikurim asher tobi me'artzecha. Toshma, coming ahead. If anybody wants to ask a different question, Shnei ilanis, 2 trees b'seif shel chavede. That a person bought 2 trees in the field of his friend. Maybe he brings bikurim from the payers, and he doesn't read the pasha's bikurim because he only bought the trees. Ha shleisha. But if he bought 3 trees, maybe then we say he has to bring bikurim. Bikurim, he reads the pasha of bikurim. My love, kosher, is it or not? Because he bought a kosher of a karka. He says if you buy already 3 trees, so you're buying already with karka.
And two, you don't
So
buy karka.
he says not. Here, I'll bring you the thing. We learn later on somebody who sells lechaveri shnei yelads v'seis sadeyu, and he doesn't specify that he's selling the karka as well.
I say you don't have to pay bikurim.
So maybe he didn't buy the karka. But when it comes machalei shleisha yelanes,
Then surely.
then we say he for sure bought karka. Hareze kones hakarka, even though he didn't specify that he's buying the karka with it. Therefore, somebody who bought 2 trees, he doesn't bring bikurim. He doesn't read the pasha. He brings bikurim, but he doesn't read the pasha's bikurim.
And 3.
But if he bought 3, we say he does. And we said even if it's a karka kolshu, so you want to loy. Hacha nami sheish esei ama. Here too, it's talking about when he bought the 3 trees, he didn't buy it with a karka kolshu. He bought it with enough land
For only 3
that to
trees.
give chayas to each tree without using his friend's the neighboring field. Sagt die Gemara, Toshma, come in here and I'll ask you an additional question from the following Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva Eimer, Karka Kol Shel Chai B'Peya. Now we're going to talk about a Karka Kol Shel that didn't mean Karka Kol Shel. Karka Kol Shel Chai B'Peya. You have to give away the corners to the Aniyim. Ubebikurin, the first ripe fruits you have to give, even though it's Karka Kol Shel.
What's the copy
Kosher, a small karka. It's not 16 by 16, a tiny piece of karka. Because
You can have fruits and that's small piece.
yeah, it's eating off it's getting its unique from the friend's field. Now, because in Allah prusbel, we know a din by prusbel that if somebody, the whole purpose of the takana was that close to Shviyas, people wouldn't lend money. Oh, so come about Shviyas, I'm gonna lose my whole chayv. I'm not lending money. So the Chacham came with a takana, a genius idea. They said, listen. You don't lend out the money. Don't worry, you're going to get your money. Shviyas won't be mishamit the loan. It won't dissolve the loan. How do you do it? So they said that you give over all your chayvus to Bezdin, and then you can collect from these people as a shliach Bezdin. But the prusbel only takes effect if when he lent the leiva money and the leiva had karka. If the leiva didn't have karka, the prusbel doesn't take effect. That's how it was, because most loans were done with a little bit of a guarantee of a karka. And then another din in kol shehu is that you could be kaina nechasim shein lahem achrayis metaltalin even with a karka kol shehu. Kinyan agav. Usually, when you want to be kaina something, you have to pay for it, or you get the deed, or you have to do a meshicha. There's also kinyan agav. You bought a little piece of land, you were kaina everything that's on the land, even though the land is a kol shehu. That's going to be the last din. Ubi bikurim. Kaisna la prusbel. We just said prusbel. Benikdin. And with a karka of kol shehu, you could acquire ima with this little piece of land. Nechas m'shein lam achrayis. You could be kaina even mitaltalin.
Probably the chosr has to be on the karka that he buys.
Yeah. So the Gemara. So we have a problem over here. We said by bikurim that he's mechuyev to give the first of fruits, even though he only has a little piece of karka and he's feeding off from the neighboring field. From the person who owns the field,
It has to be your karka.
it has to be your. It's asher tavi ma'artzecha. You have to bring from your land. And the Gemara Hachmayaskin over here, it's talking about bechiti. Not all bikurim is from fruits of a tree. It's from the 7 minim, which the Eretz Yisrael that the Eretz Yisrael was praised with. Chita, Saira, Gefen, Teina, Rimay, Zayis, Utama. So here we're talking about chita. Chita doesn't need 60 namas on both sides. It's a little nothing, a little piece of karka. The Mefarshim is chita takes yanika from the 3 tvachim around it. They say the iki yanika is mamish on the bottom. It's not from the 3 tvachim around it. I'll bring a raya. We're talking about chitim, and that's why you didn't need the 60 namas around it. Iktani, because we learned kolshu, that we learned karka kolshu. So it's mashma. We're talking about chitim because if it was a tree cannot even fit. If you bought the tree, You bought the tree on that where it's standing, that kaka. That's not kosher. It's a little bigger than kosher. Obviously, when you said the word kosher, you meant chitin, shmami no, zakuteraya, toshma. So you want to list your additional kasha on ula. Elon, on ula that says you need 60 namas all around. Elon, a tree which was it was between Eretz Yisrael, mamash on the gvul between Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz. Miktsasi b'aretz, miktsasi b'chutz la'aretz. Yeah, part of the tree is in Eretz Yisrael, part is in Chutz La'aretz. Teva v'chulem u'ravn zabazeh. We say, here you have a tree, right? It's mamish on the gvul. Here's the box. This inside the box is Eretz Yisrael. Outside the box is Chutz La'aretz. So you have fruits growing in Chutz La'aretz, and then you have branches of the tree growing in Eretz Yisrael. So we say the Tanakama holds that all the fruits are mixed. It's called tevel, and it's called it's tevel v'chulin. Each peda has a mixture of tevel v'chulin, and the only way you can take off ma'aseh is from its own, from other fruits that are tevel v'chulin on these fruits. Every fruit is mixed with tevel v'chulin, so you have to find such fruits that are tevel v'chulin that you can take ma'aseh from. Tumas and ma'aseh. Divrei Rabbi. Those are the words of Rabbi. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says no. Hagodu b'chiyuv chayiv. Those branches with the fruits in Chutz La'aretz, in Eretz Yisrael, those fruits are Eretz Yisrael the keperes, and you're mechuyivin in the din of bikurim, or in Tumas and ma'aseh. Hagodu b'ptur, the branches that are in Chutz La'aretz with the fruits, potter. That's potter. So you want to kind of like pleading over here. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, I'm not arguing. Although the Ma'asava yes, Beina. Only one Tana says that you could be Mavada which peiros belong to Eretz Yisrael, and which one Chutz La'aretz, and therefore those peiros that you see from the branches in Eretz Yisrael, Chai B'Tumas V'Maises, those peiros that are in Chutz La'aretz is Potter. Ma'asava, there's no way you can rely that you can figure it out. Each peiros are mixed. Avogadol b'ptur, but if the whole tree with all the branches and the fruits are mamish growing in Chutz La'aretz, even though it's next to the gevul and it's of Eretz Yisrael, it's coming. The unique, the chayis is coming from the land of Eretz Yisrael. The Divrei Hakol Potter. Everybody holds his potter. He's going this is a starke kasha. How could it be that it's potter? It's getting its chayis from Eretz Yisrael. How could it be potter?
Half and half.
No, we said, but if the whole tree would have been in Chutz La'aretz, and all the peiros grew in Chutz La'aretz, even though it's within 16 amas of Eretz Yisrael, he's potter. Why is he potter? He's getting its unique from Eretz Yisrael. It's within 16 amas. He should be chayv and trumas and maises. And the Gemara Hachmai Eskinon, the mafsik tzunma, that there was a bedrock that it couldn't get its unique from Eretz Yisrael. And so too, when the tree was split in half, right? You had some of the branches in the Eretz Yisrael, some in Chutz La'aretz. So there was a bedrock in the middle of the tree, so the roots went on the two sides. So it didn't mix. It didn't get its highs from the other side because the rock blocked it.
Each one separate.
So the roots on the Chutz La'aretz is Chutz La'aretz, is a part of the roots in the Eretz
But you have to
Yisrael.
say it's half an. You say the roots are still in the Chutz La'aretz, but you say it stretches 16 amas, but because it's at Sunma, therefore it doesn't stretch.
That's what we're saying. It doesn't
Not
stretch.
that it goes, that the roots go into Eretz Yisrael.
It cannot go into Eretz Yisrael. There's a bedrock. It's blocking.
So it's not half and half. It's just everything.
No, I said even by the case where we had half the tree grew in Eretz Yisrael and half it grew in Eretz Yisrael, half grew in Chutz La'aretz, half grew.
Eretz Yisrael, if there's a tzum, it's blocking it.
But still, you have roots from the tree from two sides going into one tree. There are roots from two sides going into one tree, and the chayes come from the roots. So the side that's on the Chutz La'aretz side is coming from the roots on the Chutz La'aretz side, because it's not connected with Eretz Yisrael, the Ketzai. And the side of the branches that are growing in Eretz Yisrael, we say come from the roots from Eretz Yisrael. Kaka Sela Kosher. Right, I just said it. The side, I just said it. The sides don't. I'm reading from it. I'm touching it. Those. That's
no
what
unique whatsoever.
is exactly. So we're saying even when it's split in half, and it's one tree, you could have half the tree from Eretz Yisrael, half the tree from Chutz La'aretz, because the roots are not connected to the ones in Eretz Yisrael, and the roots of Eretz Yisrael are not connected to the ones from Chutz
Well,
La'aretz.
we always said that it goes 16 amas, even though it's
16 amas, but if you have a bedrock, it's not going that way.
So therefore, there's no
So therefore, even though you have a split tree, you have one tree that's split in half. I'm saying it for a reason. You wait till you go further. In fact, my time of the Rebbe. What's the reason that Rebbe says that they're mixed? He says every fruit is mixed with, if there's a bedrock in the middle, and one side is not being yonik from the other side, meaning Chutz La'aretz is only getting from the branch from the roots of Chutz La'aretz, and Eretz Yisrael is only getting from the roots of Chutz La'aretz. So why did Rebbe say every peta that you see, every apple is mixed? Tavel mit chulin. How could it be? It's not. It's not mixed. The fruits that are in Chutz La'aretz is just Chutz La'aretz. The fruits that are in Eretz Yisrael is just Eretz Yisrael. And for the Gemara, because they have to be arvi, when it comes together in the tree, right? The ear makes it a mixture. So he says, even though they're coming from two different sides, but once it enters into the tree itself, it becomes a one mixture. So each fruit becomes half Eretz Yisrael, half Chutz La'aretz. It's mixed, travel and chulin. And what are they arguing? Masava, that even though in the kaka the sharashim are divided, but aviram evalva, he says the root, the geza, the trunk of the tree, that becomes one in the ear above the ground, right? That mixes both sides. It mixes the Eretz Yisrael, the fruit, together with the Chutz La'aretz. Even when it enters the trunk of the tree, they don't mix. The one those fruits that are going on the Chutz La'aretz side is butter, and the fruits that are going on the Eretz Yisrael, the side is chayiv. Sagt die Gemara, Meshesh esse hama v'sulai. There's only 16 amas that you say that it gets a yanika. If the 16 amas it doesn't get its livelihood, the tree. But now we learned in the Mishnah on Chafei Yom Beis, that we have to distance the tree from the bird 25 amas, not 16. So you see, 25 amas is the amount to give chayas. And the Abaya said, Mezel Tuva Ozli. He says, really, the roots extend further, and they can do damage to a bird within 25 amas. But akhushi like mechachi elad sheish es ama. Akhushi like mechachi elad sheish es ama. It does. It's highest. It's unique. It's only up to 16 amas. It does spread further, but the roots that are spreading further, it's not getting its highest from the kaka anymore. Only up to 16 amas. But it spreads further to do damage. And if there's a bird within the 25 amas, it'll do damage. But the highest is only up to 16 amas. But more than 16 amas, it's not going to get its highest. When the Avdimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bava, Omar, he said, from Rabbi Yochanan, Elon hasamach lameitza, Elon that's close to the meitza. One second. Oh, here it is. Elon hasamach lameitza, Elon that's close to the boundary. Within 16 ames, mahu. What's the din? Benegay to be kurin. If it's a Elon that's within 16 amas and it's getting from the chayas from the neighboring land, does he have to? What's the din by bikurin? Amalei gazlan hu. He says this is thievery payers because the chayas of these payers are coming from the neighbor, not from his own land. We don't bring bikurim. That's one nusach. There's a nusach that says just the opposite. When Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Rabbi Yochanan said, whether it's a tree that's close to the boundary, whether it's a tree that its branches spread over into the sod of his friend, maybe he has to bring bikurim from his own peiros, and he reads the pasha of bikurim. As if it's his land. It was on this condition that Yeshua helped us get the inheritance of Eretz Yisrael, that we shouldn't be makpid if our tree is within 16 amas or not. we have to be Mekayim the mitzvah bikurim, even if our tree is within 60 amas of the field, of his neighboring field. Zog the Mishnah, Elon. So this is the exact opposite of what Rabbi Yochanan said before. It's a different nusach. Rabbi Yochanan said before you're not chayim bikurim, and according to this nusach, Rabbi Yochanan says you are. Zog the Mishnah, Elon, Shunait. Yeah, okay. Elon Shunaitel is a tree that his branches are over the field of his friend. Koitzitz, the Baal Hasada, could cut those branches till Meloy Hamadei Agam Machrisha, till the height of his stick. What do they call it? A goat? A goat. The stick that they hit the animal that it should stay in line. So for it that it shouldn't get tangled up in the branches. So you're allowed to cut the branches till the height of the stick. That's by a regular tree. Or by a carob tree or a sycamore tree. Then it goes according to the plumb line. What was the plumb line? A plumb line was like is the border of your field. What they would do is put something very heavy into the ground and take a string and bring it up all the way up. So if you had a beautiful tree, in England they do this. You have a beautiful tree, but half the tree, the branches are on your side, over your driveway. In England, they let you cut the whole half of the tree. You're left with a half a beautiful tree, like a half a moon. The other half a moon is cut off. He's allowed to cut it off. Okay. So he says over there, if it was a carob tree or a sycamore tree, so there you're allowed to cut it off because the whole tree, not just to the height of a... No. But what? So he says you're allowed to cut the half a tree. Why? Because it's shady. It's too many branches, and the field needs the sun. But if it's beis hashlachin, if it's an irrigated field, meaning you need to take water to water the field, so you need the sun to absorb that. The ground should absorb the water. So kol ha'ilon k'neged hamashkilas. Then it's not just a buxa tree or sycamore tree, any tree, because by such a field, an irrigated field, you need the sun more because you're pouring water, heavy water, and you need that the ground should absorb it. You need the sun there. Abishol says any barren tree, any tree that doesn't give off any fruits, that you could cut off the whole half of the tree. You don't have to go to the height of the stick that hits the animals to stay on line. Abishol that says every barren tree you can cut all the way to the top. All the branches, not just to the height of a stick. Areisha koi or yasefa koi? Is it going on the reisha where it's talking about asada beis habal, that asada that lives off the rain, or it's going on the sefer of asada beis hashlachin? Toshma says, "Come in here, I'll answer you." The Tanya we learned in Abraisa beis hashlachin, irrigated field. Abishol ema. Abishol says, "Kol ha'ilan kineged hamashkelis." He says, all the trees you're allowed to cut all the way up, because the shade is bad for irrigated field. So you have a raya from Abashol that all trees by a beis hasholchin, you don't have a measurement as high as the stick. That's where you cut the branches. No, you cut up the whole thing by when it's dealing with an irrigated field because it needs the sun. Says Ravashi, Ravashi said, "Oh, Mishnah is also raya." The Ketani that we learned, Kol Ilan Srak. It says every barren tree. If it's going under Reisha Haina, the Ketani Kol Ilan. It makes sense that you added the word Kol Ilan. Why? Because in the Reisha you said only which could you cut all the way. All the trees you can't, only to the height of the stick that hits the animal to stay on line. But only two trees you can do the whole mashkelis if it's a real thick tree like a carob tree or sycamore tree. So that's why he learned kol ilan. He says every ilan stock, any type of barren tree you could cut all the way up. If it's going on the Sefer, where it's talking about Sada Beis HaShalchan, Elon struck me by Yalei. It should have said, not Kol Elon, because if you're dealing with a Beis HaShalchan, we said already all the trees you could cut all the way up. So what is Abba Shaul come to add? So he said, he should have said, only Elon struck, he's come to add and argue, only what type of a tree could you cut? Elon struck. From this that he says Kol, it doesn't make sense. It's going on the Reisha to tell you that all Elon is not just Charav Shikma, not just carob trees, because the Reisha said only two exceptions that you could cut all the way up. Abba Shaul came to add Kol Elon Sak also. So it's going on Reisha, Shema Min Azaraya.
Which one does he hold? Which trees do you let? How far you let it cut?
In the Reisha, he says all tree, every barren tree, and of course the Mishnah said Charav was a butzer tree and a sycamore tree as well.
So those are the three trees that you allowed to.
Oh yeah, and any barren tree, yeah.
Yeah, barren.
Right. Okay. Zok the Mishnah, Ilan Shu Neit L'Rishus Harabim, a tree that its branches are going over the Rishus Harabim. Koitzes, you could cut the branches. Kedei Shei Gamol Oiva B'Reichlei, in order that there should be enough height for the camel and for the rider, that he shouldn't knock his head on the branches.
Pretty high.
Has to be high, yeah. Gamol Tom Rabbi Yehuda, no, Gamol Tom Pishlan Oyachavilu Ismairas. Rabbi Yehuda argues, he says it has to be a gamol that is loaded with flax and bundles of twigs. Rabbi Shimon Oima, Kol Ilan Kedar Gamashkeles. Rabbi Shimon says, no, you don't have to cut only to a certain height, either according to the gamol with the rider or the gamol loaded with pishlan and twigs. No, all the way up, because of Tumah. Rabbi Shimon argues, no shiurim, all the way up you cut. Zaki,
What is it, Tumah?
Oh, we're going to talk about it at the end. In fact, who's the Tana that says you only cut for right now? You cut enough that you should have the right height. I will grow back again, so you'll cut it again. Who's this Tana? So the Gemara, Reish Lakish said that Hirav Mishnah is k'machlikis b'machlikis no. It was learned according to machlikis. Rabbi Lezer, it follows Rabbi Lezer. The Tana that we learned in the Mishnah. One is not allowed to dig pits, ditches, or caves underground of a Rishus Harabim. Rabbi Lezer matter. Rabbi Lezer says it's mutter. But he says it's mutter only if when you dug under, that on top you put such a cover so strong that you could take a calf angelad mitsteiner with a whole bunch of stones and it'll step on it and it won't fall through. Then you're allowed to have a burr under it. But if it'll fall through, then you're not allowed. So Rabbi Yechon says it could even follow the Rabbanan who say you're not allowed by a burr. He says, you know why by a burr you're not allowed? At times, underground, it could rot away, and the earth can become soft, and you're not there to see to strengthen the burr. So it could fall in. You're not going to be there. You're not going to know about it. But over here, above ground, when branches are growing, and you know it's going to hit, it's going to get in your way. As soon as you see branches growing, you start cutting them off right away. We learned in the Mishnah Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda said, how high does it have? Are you supposed to cut the tree? That it should be high enough for a camel that's unguladen, loaded with flax and bundles of twigs. Which shear is higher? The shear of the Rabbanan that say a camel with the rider, or the shear of Rabbi Yehuda with the packages loaded? So you want to pshita the shear of the Rabbanan nafish. It's a zichar zach. The shear of the Rabbanan is higher. These how can I shear the shear of the Rabbi Yehuda nafish? If you're going to think the shear of Rabbi Yehuda is higher, Rabbanan is shear of the Rabbi Yehuda hechi. So what is the Rabbanan going to do with the shear of Rabbi Yehuda? A camel that comes with flax and you don't have the right height. So how is he going to get through? So obviously, when the Rabbanan said the shear is the camel with the rider, that's higher. Like the Rabbanan shear of the Rabbanan nafish. Only what you're going to say the shear of the Rabbanan is higher. So Rabbi Yehuda, the shear of the Rabbanan mayav. Rabbi Yehuda said a lower shear. So what is he going to do about the shear of a rider? He won't be able to make it through. That's higher. And for the Gemara, no. After the Gach and the Chalif, the rider can bend and pass to say under the branches. Yeah, and we'll learn the last. Here comes your question about Tumah. Reb Shimon argues. He says there's no shiurim all the way up you can cut because of Tumah. Tana says means oil Tumah that there might be Tumah on the ground, the kazayis of a basa from a dead person, and the tree is over you, so that's oil habes. So oil habes, you become Tumah soil. The Tumah Tanan. It's pshita that we're talking about Tumah soil. So if you want to know, Nishtase Pasha, even Mas, listen, if from our Mishnah Haba Amina, I would have thought Duma Maisa Eiref Tumah Vashadi Hasam. Maybe a crow, a raven will bring a piece of dead flesh and put it on a branch. So there, if that's what we're worried about, then you wouldn't have to cut all the way up. All you have to do is thin out the branches enough that it should be so thin that if a crow drops it, it'll fall to the floor. You don't have to cut everything. Kamash Mani comes to tell you, no, we're concerned about oil. That oil means that there will be a dead person on the bottom, the tree will be oil, therefore you have to cut all the way up. Okay.